Morning, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast. We're going to be having a look at the FlowLogic's mobile app. Really excited to show you where we're up to with that and how it's going to work. And I'm joined today by Luke, who is the project management officer, who is going to actually take us through the actual app. I'm pretty sure that everybody in the room knows who I am, but if you don't, my name's Daniel, and I've been an implementation specialist at Datanova for 3.5 years now, and absolutely love this job. But before then, I was a system admin at a NDIS services provider in Southwest Sydney, and I put FlowLogic into that organisation. And the gang up in Maroochydore liked the way that I did it so much that they gave me the job that you see me doing now. And as you always hear me say, wouldn't be dead for quids. Love this job. But yeah, I said, today we are joined by Luke from the Datanova office, who, like I said, is the project manager officer for the FlowLogic app. And he has been on the job to work out what it's going to do, its release schedule, and with the assistance of the development team and the design team up in the Datanova office. Yeah, we're going to have a look at where it's up to and what the plan is. I suppose we should all meet Luke if we haven't already. So, yeah, Luke, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started at Datanova?
Certainly. Well, thank you, I think, for having me on your podcast, Daniel, and congratulations on having your first podcast as well.
Yep, my first solo.
So my background, I started as a support worker. So like many of the people that are part of the organizations that use FlowLogic, I started with being a student, studying social work, doing support work for a few years while I was doing study. I remember the first job that I had doing support work was actually pre-NDIS, where it was just someone I met through I think somewhere like Facebook Marketplace, and got a job through there. It was just privately funded, very, very casual, very informal, and that sort of got me started into the industry, and I just sort of fell in love with it and really enjoyed just being able to support people with disabilities and then go and support organizations within the sector as well. So as I sort of moved through and finished my social work degree, I got into support coordination, did that for a few years, was a sole trader as well as a part of that. And then as I went along that journey, I really got an interest in how I could actually help out other NDIS providers, other organizations, particularly with their business operations and how they used technology. And so at that time, I was sort of ringing around, calling a few different software providers to see what they had to offer for a few different connections that I had in the industry at that time. And one of those ones that I stumbled across was FlowLogic. And lo and behold, I found out they were based on the Sunshine Coast, where I was also based at that time doing support coordination. And we just found a great opportunity to work together. And I just thought it would be amazing to work with the team here at Datanova to actually build software that would be really useful for people, be really user-friendly, and just create a great experience for them as they, whether it be admin staff, whether it be support workers, whether it be support coordinators, create those features and that type of software that everybody would just love to use. And so as I've sort of been here at Datanova, I've been able to be a part of a lot of the new development projects that we've been a part of, and one of those ones now is the app. So I'm sort of really excited to show what we have to offer today and give people a bit of a glimpse about what we're looking to do.
Definitely, yeah. And I can tell you that Datanova is better off for having you. That is for certain, buddy. You bring a wealth of specific experience and real-world experience to the development team, which is amazing. And speaking of what you bring to the team, is let's talk a little bit about the app. Can you let me know what inspired the decision to actually create an app? And was there a specific need and feedback from the users requiring it?
Well, I think as you probably experienced a lot in your time at Datanova, Daniel, that people and many organizations, probably everybody, has requested an app at some point for their support workers. So we, for a long time, have wanted to create an app, and it's been on the cards. It was just something that we were restricted in our ability to do due to our compliance and our ISO standard. But this year we were able to explore it a bit further and actually found the opportunity to be able to see how we could develop an app and still stay compliant and still have our ISO registration, even with creating an app and having the data stored within Australia as we would need to with having any app.
Yeah, definitely the data sovereignty is the big kicker. And once we worked out a way to do it, it was brilliant. So, and that's where we're up to. So yeah, as far as what your previous experiences in the industry are concerned, how did that shape your approach to designing the app?
For me, I really thought about what were the things that I did every day as a support worker, and what when I was a support worker, I had worked for a number of different organizations, and there was a number of different ways that I would use an app or use technology as a support worker. So it might be just filling in shift notes, viewing your shifts, or sometimes as a support worker I would only ever be writing things down in paper form. And so there was a whole number of different forms in which I had to record notes or record the things that I did on a daily basis. And so I sort of thought about those experiences and thought about the different things I had from there. And then I also thought about when I was a support coordinator and the different organizations that I worked with and the different supports that we provided to participants, and how the support worker might have to go through those, different day-to-day they would have to do, different activities, and how they would have to use an app. So those that learned experience that I had from working as a support worker, from working as a support coordinator, what were those absolute necessities that would need to be in an app? What were those day-to-day things that I always had to do that I would need to show or record in an app? Those were the things that we're really focused on.
Yep, very good, very good. And yep, totally agree with you. Focusing on the support worker and actually being a support worker in your history definitely gave a unique perspective on what was required. But as far as the actual project of the design of the app was actually concerned, what were the main goals? So I know you've mentioned just now about being able to do shift notes and stuff, but what were the actual main goals of the app?
Well, first and foremost, making an app that was fit for purpose for support workers. So something that would be used only by support workers and used primarily for them and by them. So we wanted to, of course, make it easy to use, streamlining processes, particularly things like the login process, and making sure that we had those necessities in there. So like those shift notes, being able to view your shift details, just starting with those absolute basics, and then working up our way from there. And that's been a part of our process.
Very good. Yeah. And I'm sure that as part of the actual process, there were a few unique challenges in designing the app for the first time, especially because obviously FlowLogic didn't have an app before now. So yeah, what were some of those unique challenges?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of challenges, but we embraced them, and it was fantastic to work with our design team. I've been very excited working with our designers, Steve and Lara, over the last few months on the app. So one of probably the really initial challenges that we had was, what approach do we actually take to developing and designing the app? We have the option where we spend months or even years doing user research, doing different designs, and taking a very long process, or some people might call a waterfall process, in doing up that design and development. Or we have the option where we do more of a minimum viable product. We get something out there quickly. We get something people can start using. We get out, the very basics, and then we evolve the app as people start using it. So we make sure that we have the features in there that make it usable, and then we continue to build on features as we develop and design the app on an ongoing basis. And so we decided on the latter part where we would, we would have sort of initial sort of research, get some feedback, both from organizations, support workers, and internally. And then we would, do a few iterations of a design internally, and then we would look to develop it and get something out there that organizations and support workers can start testing and start using. And then we can continue to evolve and build new features on top of that. So it was really heartbreaking at times to say, oh no, we're going to, maybe cut this feature out for now. We don't think this is an absolute necessity, but we'll look to build this new feature in later. It'll be something that on maybe a monthly basis, we'll look to bring in sort of a new feature, and that'll be a part of that process.
Yeah, very good, very good. But speaking about those actual features that support workers are used to with using the web version of FlowLogic, how did you ensure that the app would actually meet the needs of those users that are already familiar with the web-based instance of FlowLogic?
Certainly. Well, we had to think about how are support workers currently using FlowLogic, and what are all the, what would be their day-to-day things that they would use within FlowLogic. So we know they're going to view their shifts. We know they're going to be logging in. We know they're going to be submitting shift notes. We know they're going to be clocking on and off. And we know they're going to be submitting timesheets. Those are things that absolutely have to be in the app, because they'll have to do that every day and for every shift. So we'll need that information and that workflow to be able to do. So we focused on, having those essential features in there, and then we just built on top of that.
Very good, very good. And speaking of said features, would you like to take us through what the app actually looks like now, please, buddy?
I would absolutely love to. I'm really excited to show off what it is, and I think just before starting, everyone should just be reminded that this is an app that we have designed specifically for support workers, and it's an app that we've specifically designed to be very slim, very minimal, and have, as it has been iterating, have those essential features in there. So as you go through that, we'll get to see that, but I hope that you'll really be excited about sort of the experience that we'll be offering within the app with those features that we have provided, and that support workers will find it a really enjoyable experience, very seamless, and that they'll just have a much more easy experience with doing their day-to-day as a support worker, because they can simply just come into the app, quickly fill out everything they need to do, and then be on their way. So I'll run you through it, starting with the login process, and you'll get to sort of see what it will be like as support workers run through it. So the first time that a support worker would come into the app, they would be presented with the ability to log in. They would then put in their email, and then they would click verify, which would verify them with a particular organization. Once they've done that, they can put in their password and continue on. The first time they have to log in, they will be doing two-factor authentication, but as they go through and put that in for the first time, we actually do have the ability to make sure they don't have to do that at a later stage. They can be using other things like the PIN code or face and touch ID to be able to log in. So that'll make it a much more seamless experience with the logging in for both support workers. So you can see in here that when they're logging in as well, they'll be setting a PIN code, confirming that PIN code, and then enabling Face ID if they choose to, or depending on their device, enabling Touch ID. Then they have the opportunity to enable location services and enable notifications. Then the first time they use the app as well, it'll show support workers sort of what they'll be able to do within the app. So we have clocking on and off. We have shifts, being able to view your upcoming shifts, and then being able to fill out your timesheets and clock on and off. So once they've gone through this stage, it'll take them into the app and it'll pop up the system message, which is customized to each organization. They can then close this and it'll present them with their shifts. So they have this screen here where it takes them straight away to the today and showing them the shifts that are on for today. So we got this shift here for Luke, and it shows them there's an active shift that's happening now, and you can see the time indicator for where we are today as well. Then as they scroll through, they can see the upcoming shifts. Each shift is also indicated with icons, so to say whether it has been travel or whether it's a daytime shift. As we go through, you can see when we see an overnight shift, you can see one that's an awake overnight, and that it actually travels and sort of falls onto the next day within this day view. If support workers are wanting to go and view shifts on other days, they can also do that by going and clicking on different days. So if they wanted to go and see the shifts from previous day, then they can view, they can tap on the Monday and they can see that those shifts were completed from yesterday. They can go in and see the details and the shift notes from there. Then if they want to go see the shifts later down the week, they can scroll across and select a day. So here we selected Wednesday, and we can see the upcoming shifts for this particular day as well. And similar to if they selected Thursday, they can also see and scroll through the shifts for that day. If they're wanting to go and view the cancelled shifts, then they can do that as well. So here we have a cancelled shifts. You can also toggle on and off, seeing a cancelled shift or not. Then additionally, if they happen to have two shifts scheduled on at the same time, it'll show a conflict warning, which they can click off. You can see it sort of aligns them that when there's two shifts on, they're next to each other, so then they'd have to take some action on that. Now, all the views that we've seen so far are really for full-time, part-time workers, but we also made sure to include view for casual staff. So with the new regulations that came out earlier this year, with having casual staff, giving them the opportunity to accept or reject shifts, we're looking to make that included in the first iteration or first release of this app as well. So here you have a pending shift where the support worker has the ability to accept or reject the shift. So if they go through and accept it, then it'll pop up with a message and they can tap yes, accept the shift. If they later decide they want to reject the shift, they can also tap on reject, click yes, reject shift, and then that shift will disappear from their view and go back to TBA in FlowLogic for the roster to roster it on for someone else. Now, if a support worker actually wants to go in and see more details from that shift, then they can do that by clicking on the More button here. And they can see some of the admin notes and a few extra details about the shift that aren't on the shift card in the main view. They can also go in and add their shift note from here. So by tapping on the plus button, and it'll show them the details of the shift. Now, we understand that everybody for their shift notes might call it something else. They might call it communication, they might call it case notes, whatever it may be. And they also may have different fields in their shift notes. So what this shift note will be is customized to each particular organization depending on how they have it set up in FlowLogic already. So it's very dynamic. So this, if someone else has a drop-down field here, it'll show a drop-down field here. If someone else has, I don't know, they might have they might have a lookup field or something. They're selecting a staff or a client. that shows here instead, then that'll show you there instead. So it's going to be dynamic based on what each organization has set up. And then as the support worker goes through and fills out their shift note, they can go and submit it. And once they've submitted it, they can tap on continue once it's been successful. Now that we've sort of gone through that whole process of viewing shifts and viewing the details of that and submitting shift notes, I'll take you sort of through clocking on, clocking off, and what that looks like. So we can see down the bottom we have the clocking on button here in the big green button. So the support worker clicks on, they'll have the customized message that the organization has, and if there's a checklist there, then they can clock on. And once they've clocked on, you can see that button down here has changed to clocking off, and also at the top here, their icon, it's turned green to show they're clocked on. When a support worker finishes their shift, they can go through and clock off by clicking the button down below and going through the same process of ticking off the items and clocking off. Now that they've clocked off, it takes them through to a new timesheet entry where they can go and view the details of the timesheet, view the shifts, and add shift notes from here. You can go in and add travel. So here there's no trip added, so we can go in and add a trip. You can then go in and submit that trip and view your trips. And here your trip is showing up. Then we can go through, add the breaks as well for the shift that was longer, had any breaks in it. Add the break, submit the break, and then we can see that break has been added in there as well. And it's very much a similar process for the wake ups. Once the support worker has gone through, completed their timesheet, they can submit it, and they can tap yes for continuing through. It shows them their timesheet has been successfully submitted. Now that it's been submitted, you can see that these shifts are showing up as complete, and they can go through and close the app for the day. Now, the other sort of main things that might be included in the app, such as incident reports, such as viewing participant records, those are all things that we are very much aware of and wanting to include in the app. And in the first release, though, there will be links to FlowLogic. So there'll be this more button that was down the bottom on the menu where the support can go through and they can see these are the things that are coming soon, and we can actually go and submit or go and complete within FlowLogic. So say they wanted to submit an incident report, and there's a link to FlowLogic to submit that incident report, and it'll show up that it's coming soon to the FlowLogic app, but then it can take them straight to the FlowLogic web where they can go and complete that incident report. So as I mentioned, sticking with very few features initially with the first release, and then continuing to release features like the incident report and like viewing participant records, submitting and viewing leave requests, viewing timesheets. Those will be things that we will look to be including as we do mini releases post the first release. There's also the option within here to go and change your security settings, such as like your PIN code and Face ID, Touch ID settings as well. That is pretty much the full scope of the app at this point. I know for some people that the first iteration, it might not be everything that they hoped for or wanted. I think for other people, they'll be very excited just to have their support workers using it and having that more seamless experience in the app. So thank you so much for letting me take you through it. And we'll go through a few more questions, Daniel, and then we'll take some Q&As, will we?
Definitely, buddy. Definitely, that's the plan. But yeah, thank you so much for showing me and everybody in the room the app. And as we can see, there's already some people that are very excited to actually see it. Now, just as far as the actual features that we've just gone through, what was the actual number one, the main piece of feedback that we've got from when we showed it before in the first draft, I suppose is the easiest way to say it. But yeah, what was the one feature that was the major consideration as far as the design of the app is concerned?
One thing that was absolutely paramount that we got right was the logging in process. We'd heard from many of our own users and also users from other apps that logging in was like a big struggle for many support workers. And so getting that workflow right and getting that that process for support workers as they go to log in, making it seamless, making it easy, was very, very important. So we really focused and drilled down on that. That was sort of the first feature we looked at, first feature we went through, making sure we got that whole process right. And then sort of worked on the other ones like viewing shifts, viewing shift notes, once we got that feature correct.
Yeah, definitely logging in, actually getting the support workers into the app or onto the web is the biggest consideration as far as the change management is concerned. So yes, definitely getting the logging in process right was the definite number one that needed to happen, and we got it. But speaking of the features that may not be actually in the app, what is the pipeline for what's coming, and how do you see the app actually evolving over time?
Well, I think as I sort of touched on through the presentation, we have incident reports, we have viewing participant details, viewing leave requests, viewing timesheets, all those sort of the features that we see as being the prerogative as we do each new release. And as I mentioned, sort of those releases we'll be looking to on a monthly basis following that first release. So maybe it might be for the first release, focusing on incident reports. And then for the second release, after that viewing or focusing on support workers being able to view participant records. And then it might be, viewing their timesheets for the next iteration. So that's sort of our pathway of how we're looking to make those releases, but also we're still being guided by support workers, by organizations on what they would consider to be most important. Particularly once we have that first version released, we'll get so much more of a feel for how support workers find using the app and what they consider to be the most important things that might be missing, or that they might consider to not be in there. But that's certainly sort of our pathway for success at the moment, focusing on those other essentials like the incident reports, like timesheets, like the viewing the participant records.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, Luke. Finally, I suppose, is the one big question that I need to ask you is, what's the message to users who are going to be trying the app for the first time, and what do you hope that they take away from the experience of using the app for the first time?
Well, I think what I really do hope for is that they take away that this is an app that is evolving. This is an app that it's our first iteration, but it's an app that will actually provide a much better experience. It'll be something that will improve their quality of life. It'll speed up their time when they're on their shifts with submitting their shift notes, just getting into the app with the logging in process. So it'll be a quality of life sort of hack having the app around. And so I'm really sort of excited to see them using that and to be able to sort of embrace that process, but also just be aware that as we are going through this approach, releasing new features over a period of time, that it won't have everything initially, but there will be things to look forward to. There will be things that we continue to release and they can continue to be excited about as we release them. And so I really look forward to working with organizations, support workers on that journey as we continue to do those releases and they continue to become more familiar with the app and they continue to become more excited about what we're doing within that space.
Definitely. Very exciting times ahead. Very much looking forward to it. Definitely. Okay, there have been a number of questions asked in the chat while we were talking away there, Luke. And we might just have a bit of a summation of all those questions. And it's going to be around clients asking, when is something going to be added? Now, you did talk about how the next plan is to do like the incidents, have the incident reports able to be filled out in the app, and the support workers being able to see their submitted timesheets and their submitted leave requests and whatnot. There's a lot of questions in there about extra stuff. And what are we suggesting that clients do as far as getting stuff added into the app? What is the plan there?
Well, I think there's really two main pathways. There's the pathway now of sending through things, sending through questions, sending through ideas, and continuing to just present us with everything they want. And then there's also the pathway of once they are on, having the support workers using the app, giving feedback to that, and being able to be really involved in that process as well. So for the organizations who want to be part of maybe those beta users, or those early adopters, as we might call them, then we would love to sort of be able to start that process with them and to be able to get them involved, give them more details on what that might look like and how they can start using it. So I think that sort of, once we get them through, once we get organizations using the app, once we get support workers using the app, then we'll be getting that feedback loop going, which will be very invaluable as we continue to evolve and build new features into the app.
And that pretty much answers absolutely every question that's actually in the chat at the moment. Oh, look at that. We've even got a few people already saying that they want to actually be part of these early adopters. And that is brilliant to know. Brilliant to know. Thank you very much. Please tell me if I'm wrong here, Luke, but if you wish to be part of the early adopters, I'm pretty sure you want to know at the help desk level. Is that right, Luke?
Yeah, it can either be through sending through ticket to the help desk, or I'm happy to share my email in the chat, and people can actually send through requests to me specifically, and we can sort of vet those requests. And if we get a lot of requests, we might have to start vetting them, which it seems like it could be that case. But also, just sending through those requests, and we will look to sort of start that process with each organization.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you very much, Luke, for your time today. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody who joined us in the podcast today. And like Luke said, if you're interested in getting, being one of those early adopters, as we so spoke about, please let the help desk know. Luke, don't give out your email address, whatever you do, buddy. No, go through the help desk so we can all keep it in the one spot. And thank you. Like I said, thank you very much for your time. And we'll see you all again in the next podcast.